there's anything anyone wants to say, now's your shot.
We will never experience anything like this again in our lives.
De La Salle streak and tradition continue.
Hi, welcome to What the Flick, everybody. This is Christy Lemire. I'm Matt Atchity. We are catching up because it's the end of August. The movies are rough. And so we're talking about last week's release, When the Game Stands Tall.
When the Game Stands Tall. Terrible title, but it's based on a true story of De La Salle High School in Concord, California, which was a powerhouse football team throughout the 90s and early 2000s. They had this unprecedented 151-game win streak under the coach, I can speak, Bob Ladouceur, and he's played by Jim Caviezel. So the movie starts out with them ending their streak, and it's about how they rebuild both on the field and off. Take a look.
The longest winning streak in sports history is now over.
But losing this streak tested us all.
Let some punk pull you down at the 2-yard line.
Dad, please.
Don't let a game define who you are. Let the way you live your lives do that.
It's just a high school football game.
Ever since day one, we've been doing what's best for us. You and me getting out of here together.
You heard from me?
I got caught up in everything and let it nearly kill me.
Coach, I'm alone.
Family isn't just blood relatives. You've got me and 60 brothers.
1, 2, 3, Spartans!
Coach told us, face your fears.
Meet Buster Matthews, 330 pounds of pure aggression, and you're gonna face him the whole game.
We got lost, caught up in the hype, the glory, and the relentless pressure. That's not who we are. We need to stand back up and find our way again.
You've got to decide what you want to be.
Only way I'm going out of this game is on a stretcher.
You know why they call me Buster?
Because you're stupid enough to let him. Brothers for life. No matter where we go or what we achieve, nothing's ever gonna come close to what we have right here, right now.
When the game stands tall.
So this sort of felt different to me in the beginning, right? Because it's not an underdog story of some scrappy little team that beats all the behemoths and like makes a name for itself. It begins with the powerhouse and what happens when they have to figure out how to survive and reform and rethink their strategy. And so that seemed really novel to me at first. But then it just goes into all the sports cliches that we see in every other kind of sports film.
The rhythm of this is weird because it takes a story that doesn't fit the standard kind of progression of a sports movie where you've got guys fighting for something and they're in over their heads, and then it all comes down to one last game and it fixes all their lives, and that can work really well. It works great in Rudy, right? It works great in The Natural. Hoosiers. It works great in a million films.
Karate Kid.
And it applies here. It doesn't work for this story. The movie touches on some interesting points about, it starts out with the seniors of the football team talking about, the seniors who are about to graduate, talking about their last game, talking, and you see what goes into making this team so great and what makes, all of the things that Ladouceur does to really make these players men.
Right. It's not just they're players, they're men of integrity.
And then the assistant coach, played by Michael Chiklis, says the juniors aren't talking. The juniors aren't sharing anything. And that comes up later because they lose their game. This is not a spoiler because it's based on a true story. They lose their game and you see them then lose the next game. And you see that these guys are really struggling with who they are and what it means to be the first team in 10 years that's lost any game. And it messes with them. But the movie doesn't get into that enough. And it's frustrating because there's elements that could be a really cool story. It doesn't help too that Jim Caviezel plays things really low key here.
Right, he's doing this voice that is sort of a cross between Christian Bale's Batman and like Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry. Everything is kind of like this.
Yeah, and that's the way Ladouceur was. They show film of him at the end, and that's the way he was, but it doesn't help. At some point, the verisimilitude takes away from the movie, right? At some point, you want somebody, maybe not like Al Pacino over the top,
So we gotta win now,
right?
guys.
Any given Sunday, but he plays so low key that it robs the movie of a bit of its drama, and I think that that's a problem. Now, some of the stuff in this works. I thought the football scenes, the in-game stuff worked great.
It's edited really well.
It's edited very well.
It's not overly choppy. You can actually follow it and get engrossed in each play, each game.
Right, and you see these kids hitting each other on the field, and you feel it. Like there's crunches, and it's the action of the football scenes is very well staged. But they start to add in these things like the father of the linebacker,
He's
the
wide
fullback,
receiver. He knows
the wide receiver. Yeah, the father played by Clancy Brown. They kind of set up as sort of the bad guy and the guy who's it's the same as the parent in Friday Night Lights. And a lot of critics,
the overbearing dad, yeah.
Right, and a lot of critics have come in and said this movie feels like an episode of Friday Night Lights. I don't disagree with that.
There's a lot of hand-holding that goes on here because you have a constant kind of Greek chorus of various broadcasters commenting on these games. And a moment where clearly it's all down to this play. Their entire season rests on this play. You've got somebody telling you the entire season rests on this play.
Right.
Wow, this really matters now. Or the one wide receiver is 3 touchdowns away from the single season touchdown record, and clearly he gets one. He needs 2 more. Then he gets another one. He needs 1 more. It's okay, we can do simple math here. And it's really overbearing and distracting and kind of smothering and constant. So that I thought was a problem. It's a religious film. Affirm Media is one of the producers, and there is a lot of there's a Christian theme to it, right? It's a Catholic high school. It's a Jesuit high school at De La Salle. And Bob Ladouceur was a religious studies teacher before he became the football coach.
The whole coaching staff are the religious studies teachers.
And that part actually they integrate into the film pretty seamlessly. And then there's a character who is shot to death, and it's very tragic, and it shakes them all up. And they all question their faith in that moment. And Bob Ladouceur has to give the eulogy at this kid's funeral, and he questions his faith in that moment in a way that felt very realistic to me.
I found that to be, it got a little dusty in the theater for me. I found that to be shockingly moving. That was much more moving than I would expect.
In an understated way.
In a very understated way. And I like that this is a movie that is about people who are religious and have a deep faith, and it doesn't beat you over the head with it. That's not the point of this story. At no point, they don't get to the end of the movie and it's like, oh, we're champs because of Jesus. And no, but seriously, there's movies that would do that, and this movie doesn't. Yeah. Right? And I liked that.
This is just a bunch of guys who love the Lord. The Lord loves this team. No, it's not that. No, and I would say that's handled much more gracefully than a lot of Christian-themed films, like Your Mom's Night Out or whatever. So that actually was one of the strengths of it. It ends up being a lot of sports movie cliches when you think it's going to be different. The Ladouceur character, as you say, he is really low-key, but that also makes it hard to connect with him, and he talks so much about a way of life, but I'm not sure that we see him living that way of life himself, or we don't see what the football means to him. It's a lot of talk, it seems to me. It's fine, but it's really ultimately the rah-rah overbearing, the score swells, and you think it's going to be a different kind of sports movie, and then it is not.
I would say for the people that like Friday Night Lights, and especially high school and college football movies, this is going to be something that they like. One of the problems from a movie making standpoint, this movie kind of has a 4th act, and I don't think movies really need it.
It's long. It's 2 hours
it is long, and it goes on to a point where you think, okay, we should be ending, and then they keep going, and it's kind of surprising.
I like Michael Chiklis as the assistant coach. He brings some life to it because Caviezel is so low key. Laura Dern does more with the supportive wife character than there is on the page, I would say. She brings more characterization to it. I guess my number should be higher than it was. I guess I'll give it a 5.4.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 5.
All right, so 5.2 from us.
It's very low on the tomato meter, about 18%.
I don't think it's that bad.
No.
You guys are all wrong.
Right, but nobody went and saw it last weekend anyway, so.
It tanked, huh?
Not as bad as Sin City 2.
Sin City 2 was terrible, yes. Everyone saw If I Stay, or not. Okay, bye, thank you, bye-bye.